Hey there, everyone. Paul and Karen here for week number 10. It is the day after our retreat. We had it last night, so yeah, we're
Was
recuperating
it
from it.
great?
It was great.
It was so exciting to see such a great turnout.
Yeah,
So many of you were there, and just fun to interact with each other and get back into this book a little bit, talk about vision for the semester.
yeah. And Ellie and I, just as we were standing up there, when you were working on one of your projects that you're working on, Ellie and I were just up front. We were just looking out over all of you, and just we were just blessed because you're a lot of amazing people, people that just love God. We know that, and you love New Life, and you love what God is doing in New Life. So we're just excited about the team of life group leaders that God has raised up and putting together. We were hoping that not too many of you had to go home last night to a mess in your
Yeah.
yard. We saw some of the pictures of what was around town. Oh my.
Some of you have a big project ahead,
Yeah,
cleaning
trees
up.
in your yard and
Yeah, call your life groups.
yeah, call your life
That's
groups.
what we're here for, right?
That's
Call your
right.
life group and say, hey, life group work project.
Yeah.
This doesn't count as your service project for the semester, but we are to care for each other.
That's
So
right.
call your life group, have them clean up your
Yeah.
yard.
So, but we prayed for you last night just because we saw some of the things that you were going home to. So, yeah, but we're glad that we were all together in the midst of the storm. Looking forward to what's coming up. So, Karen, today I guess we're talking about then chapter 10. I mentioned it a little bit last night. It was right at the end last night. Doing great habits, raising up great habits for us.
Right, right.
So important.
Yeah. Well, I think about these retreats and things like this book that we've read, and so many times we read it, we soak up a lot of knowledge, and then we don't do anything with it. And that's
Yep.
what this chapter is
Guilty as
about.
charged.
It's saying, it's great to have knowledge, but knowledge that just stays as knowledge is almost worthless.
It's true.
We have to continue. And that was even in that chapter, when I talked about thinking great thoughts and planting seeds. Well, we've got those seeds. We need to then fertilize them and water them. We need to continue to think on them and put them into practice and
Yeah.
act on them. Like it needs to bear fruit. And so that's what this chapter is about: cultivating great habits, working on it, continuing to pour into it, rethinking it, whatever, until it becomes part of us.
Yeah.
So we talked about 6 different habits
Ways,
that we
habits.
should. I guess they were each a habit that would
Could
help
be,
us with
yeah.
this. So the first was putting God first.
That's huge. And for me, again, I think I mentioned it last night that, for me, I'm an early morning person. And so for me, it works good for me because I get up early in the morning and I put God first. And don't get me wrong, I like checking the news and see if anything happened overnight or what happened the day before. And I like doing that as well. And then I even pray over that. But also, I pray, I do that first. I seek God first. And
You know what I loved in this chapter?
What's that?
Was the story about this. He said that some habits require drastic measures. Do you remember the
Yeah.
story? He told the other guy that he wanted to get up in the morning,
Get
even
me
though
out of
he
bed.
wasn't a morning person. I could see you doing this to me. And the guy
would you like me to?
picked him up by his ankles and threw him in the shower and turned the shower on.
Please, can I?
No.
Okay.
But
If we do it, don't worry, we'll video it and let you see it. That would be fun.
no, thank you. Anyway, but just the idea of drastic measures, and that maybe as we look towards making new habits,
Yeah.
some of us might have to take some drastic measures to make them happen because it's going to take a little bit of work to incorporate them.
Absolutely.
But the point of God first is that He should be our first priority.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that, with that, it changes a lot of everything else in our lives, because I've told people before that you and the kids can tell when I'm getting up, and if I skip my morning devotions, and sometimes I'm normal, I skip them once in a while, and a lot of times the rest of my day doesn't look as good. Maybe I'm a little bit more grumpy than what I might be. People can notice if I'm not putting God first, because if I'm not, things change in my life. So I think it's so important to put God first, and what that can do for the rest of our day, and also for the other 5 things that he mentions here. If we put God first, what it can do for us for other great habits. So what was number 2 then?
Take out the trash.
Yeah.
Take out the trash. So This is just looking at like taking an honest inventory of our lives and looking at what we're doing, what we're reading, what we're watching, how we're spending our time, and recognizing that there are things, relationships, whatever media that are part of our lives that are trash.
Yep.
They are not feeding us. They are not growing us towards the Lord. And maybe it's time for us to, I think he said, ask Jesus to clean the house.
Yeah. I remember back with one of my staff people at a previous congregation, we were talking just one time, and she was mentioning that she was watching this certain TV show. And I'm not going to say what TV show, I'm not judging anybody, but we just talked about it a little bit. And I said, I said, we don't watch that because we don't feel that's the best thing for us in helping us walk with Jesus. And she just said, it's just entertainment. Mm-hmm. And I said, yes, it is, but it's still putting something into my heart and something in my brain. And so I choose to not. And so that's part of the, considering it. Would I want to watch whatever I'm watching or do whatever I'm doing if Jesus were sitting right next to me physically?
Yeah.
That's part of that. And
yep.
That's hard.
And there's some stuff that is entertaining, but it is also drawing us away or just dulling us, I think, is a lot of time. It kind of numbs our brain. And as Christians, we shouldn't want to numb our brains. We should want to be fully engaged and learning and growing. And there's so much joy in so many good things that we don't need to settle for mediocre things that are just entertainment.
And that's hard because, even, too much Fox News. I know, I just hurt some people with that one. Or even, should I say it, too much football? Yeah. I don't like saying that because I love watching football, but sometimes my family might be.
Don't send me the hate emails.
Sometimes my family and God working in the midst of my family needs to be more important than me watching a football game. And so, there's a balance. There has to be a balance in that. Yeah. What's number 3?
Number 3, do your own dishes. And just talking about taking responsibility.
Right.
So this was the idea where so many times we like to push blame for things in our lives. And we at some point, especially now that all of us who are life group leaders are adults, we need to take responsibility. And yes, some very terrible things may have happened and some people may have acted in even horrific ways towards us. But I am the only one responsible for my actions moving forward. And so
like that one story.
We all have to choose.
One story, I think you and I talked about it. Wasn't this the one where the guy was in the bathroom? Yeah. What was that story again?
So in the story, he was in a public restroom with another guy. And when this guy finished going to the bathroom, the guy went and wiped down the toilet seat. Right. Then he washed his hands. He wiped down the sink. He picked up the other pieces of paper towel that were on the bathroom floor.
He took responsibility. Not just for himself, but even a little bit for those around him. And, Chip was just so shocked, why are you doing this? And of course he's saying, as Christ's representative, I'm supposed to leave things better than they were. That's so huge. It just is.
Yeah. Well, I've done this on a Sunday morning in the ladies' bathroom downstairs. I have gone in and there's been soap all over the counter and pieces of paper towel.
Wait, you mean ladies make messes? Huh.
But I've gone and gotten paper
towel.
Don't
send me the hate emails.
Wiped down the sink, picked up the bits that are scattered around the floor, thrown that away. It only takes a couple of seconds. I wasn't the one that made the mess, but it communicates something in the long run. And so just being that as leaders for all of us to be the ones who are willing to step up and do your own dishes or even, at times do a little bit of someone else's dishes because of what that's going to communicate.
Yeah. And I've even seen it, sometimes I watched a person one time, they threw their paper towel, hit it, and it fell onto the floor. And I watched it, they were willing. They actually picked down their paper towel and they threw it away. And maybe it's not a big thing, but it's a thing. To not pick that up, what does that say? If I'm a Christ follower, am I doing my own dishes? And so it's a witness.
Right.
And it's an important habit to get into and just remembering this, leaving things behind you in a better place than where it was when you first got there.
And just taking that metaphor, it's not just trash, but if we're constantly going to blame others for the way that we act and react and respond, no, I get to choose. You can come in and be snarky. I choose
to serve.
And I choose to not respond in that same manner. That's that's my choice, is
Sure.
I can clean up my own dishes even if you're not. And I think that's big in life groups. There are times when some of our life group participants are going to
Be
have a hard
snarky,
day or
as you
be a
call it.
little snarky or whatever it may be, and I can't take responsibility for them, but I can take responsibility for me, and I can do my best to love
Right.
and be gracious in the midst of that.
The
Number
fourth
4,
one,
yep,
write it down.
Mm-hmm.
So important. Again, we did that yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we talked about that at you had your plans. No,
They had to write down their 3 practices out
Practices,
of this book
right.
that they needed or they felt they need to grow in. Then
then
once
their
they had
goals.
those, they had to put a goal for each one,
right.
and then a plan. So some way that they want to put it into practice.
So you have that now.
Right.
You wrote it down. These are some ways that you can make great habits.
Hopefully you remember to take a picture with your phone.
Yes.
So
And if you
have
didn't,
it.
let us know. We can get it to you.
Mm-hmm.
But that's huge. You wrote it down. You now have an understanding of what is those. What are those next steps?
Which
that you can
takes
take.
us right into not chapter 5, number 5, which is do it now.
Well, that's not how we should say it. Again, get her done.
Get her done.
I love tomater. You know that, honey.
Yeah, so get her done. We can make all kinds of plans. We can have all kinds of knowledge. We can read great books, even this one. But if we don't
Take a step.
actually put it into practice, if we don't take that first step, and it's so easy for us to put it off and
Yep.
put it off and put it off. And, it was another book that we read, but it just talked about that with God, there is no tomorrow. There is only now. So you can't say, oh, well, I'm going to start
Right.
next week.
I
No,
think that's
do
huge.
it today. Whatever you wrote down last night, start the plan today.
Yep. That's huge, and it's the first step. And there's hope then of what can happen after you take the first step. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last one is
Turn it off.
turn it off, take a break. We have a sermon series coming up that's going to be really good, and with this understanding, it's in I think late October into November, somewhere in there. It's work hard, rest hard.
I like it.
Talking about Sabbath and how important Sabbath can be. Working hard is important. It's a godly thing to work hard, no matter what that work is. But Sabbath is huge.
Yeah, I really like looking at the science behind Sabbath.
Yep.
And, even non-Christian scientists have discovered that our bodies were created for rhythm and for periods of rest. And they've actually been able to prove that in every 7-day cycle, our bodies need a 24-hour rest period. And I'm not talking sleep at night. I'm talking 24 hours where our brains are really, I don't want to say shut down, but paused, resting, where we're just receiving, enjoying creation, looking at art and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Like our bodies are made for that. And part of that science, I just find this intriguing.
Tell me about it, honey.
Yeah, they actually did this whole study, and it was on Seventh-day Adventists
Okay.
in California, who, of course, that's part of their religious practice, is it's kind of mandated that
Yep.
they take a Sabbath. So what God has told us is good for us, they've taken it and
Been literal about it. But
but in California, they had done this study, and they found that these Seventh-day Adventists who take this Sabbath every week live 4 to 10 years on average longer than the average Californian. So our bodies are created for that. We're actually killing ourselves by not resting.
yeah. So you're telling me that I should go take a nap right now?
Well,
Okay, cool.
it's not just sleep.
I
Not just
know.
sleep.
Sabbath is important,
But-
and so we're going to talk about that in our sermon series,
Yeah.
and so we can learn about that. And I love God. God mandates this
Yeah.
because God knows us better than anyone else. God created us; He knows us. That Sabbath is so huge. So we're gonna learn more about that. Taking a break.
Yeah. This book was great.
I loved
This
it.
was great. We got to wrap it up now. It's done. You'll see, along with the email we send with this, we're going to send you a little survey that's going to actually talk about mentoring.
Yep. We are going to be letting you know a little bit more about the mentors. We talked about it last night. We're all going to have mentors. It's important. It just is that we learn from others, that we're willing to be teachable, that we're willing to walk hand in hand with somebody, to hold each other accountable, and to help point each other in better directions. And so part of it will be co-mentoring. I want to learn from some of you that I'm going to be working with. Every time I mentor somebody, I think I learned just as much, and it's so important. And that's the attitude I'm going to have coming into it. And I know that Karen will as well. She just loves learning, walking alongside of others, and Ellie and others will too. So we're going to be doing some mentoring. We're going to be letting you know who those people are that you're going to be walking alongside of, and we'll get that to you.
Yep.
So anything else?
We'll do a little survey
Yeah.
that talks about how we can best mentor. We did this book this summer,
We
and
did these
that
videos.
was, and the book was a substantial portion of Ellie's budget to pay for them. If books aren't great, or if people aren't going to read them, we don't want to use the budget.
Right.
And these videos,
We had fun doing
we
them.
have fun doing them, but if people aren't going to watch them, then that's not good use of our time and resources either.
Right.
So we'd really love for you to fill out that form and just let us know.
Did a
how-
retreat last night. Was that
Right.
something good for you?
Right.
The book. What are the best ways that we
What are the
can
best ways?
keep growing you, keep throwing ourselves into use? Because we want our life group leaders to be going from good to great.